Hey team, Browncoat from Koru-Cottage here, and thanks for stopping by to check out our review. Before I dig into it, just want to say, if you enjoy what I've laid down, consider subscribing. It's really appreciated. And even if you just enjoy the video, chuck us a like, and it just makes me feel a bit better about all the work and stuff that I put into it. Alright, so I'll dig into the review itself. Superhero games are tricky. I'll just put it out there, because some are good, some are bad, some are just downright terrible, and then the odd one comes out of nowhere and is brilliant. And that secret sauce is just so hard to nail down. As far as a SpiderMan game goes, probably Spider-Man in 2004, Spider-Man 2, was the touchstone of what a good Spider-Man game should look like. I'd also chuck in there Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions from 2010. Not for the entire game, but some of its stealth mechanics were very, very well put together. As far as this Spider-Man game goes, there's been a lot of expectation heaped upon Insomniac Games. This is a AAA exclusive title for the PS4, and boy is there some hype behind it. The game itself, in very short terms, is good. It is a bit derivative at places, particularly around the open world, but I'll explain a bit more of what I mean by that later on. In this game, Peter Parker has been the web slinger for 8 years, and he's pretty much cleaned up New York, but it's all gone to hell again, and Peter's pushed back into pretty tricky situations, and then he's also got to juggle his complex personal life as well as his superhero life. And as I'll explain a wee bit later, that's one of the stronger elements of this game. Surprisingly, for a superhero game, the story and its main characters have a lot of soul. There's a lot of heart there. Peter Parker's been nailed. But the city itself, New York, is also a character in all Spider-Man lore. And New York has been beautifully realized. The traffic, the people, pedestrians moving around, the hustle and bustle of the city as you swing past a rubbish bin which you would never usually stop and look at because you're moving at 60k an hour on webs. You stop, you have a look, and it's detailed. Like, they've put that work in to make sure the city looks good up close, which I gotta take my hat off to them. It looks great, but it also sounds great. So take a listen.
Yes, I am your biggest fan!
Come on!
So the audio is very strong, and there is a moment that still got me every time where you're sitting at a building and watching the city below, and you just hear the sound of the streets, and then all of a sudden you jump off the building, start web swinging, and the music swells and it sounds just like a Spider-Man movie, and they've just perfectly nailed the web swinging. It makes you feel fast and fluid, and technically you still have to pay attention, so it's not a mindless activity. Every other previous Spider-Man game has struggled with that, and Insomniac Games have nailed it. The other big positive for me is the combat. It has got a couple of wee issues, but it's based around that idea of counters and gadgets, and very similar to the Arkham games, but it's got that Spidey skin on it. It's fast, it's frenetic, and it's acrobatic, and it's something which absolutely sits right until it doesn't. There's the odd moment there where the counters don't work quite right, or you'll misjudge the camera angle and not see an attacker coming from a hidden angle, and it just falls to pieces just briefly, and then you very quickly get back on the offensive, but it's just not quite as tuned as, say, the Arkham games or the Mordor games. But it's also different, so perhaps that's unrealistic to expect it to be like that rhythm game, counter attack, because Spidey is all over the place. But that's how he should be. So it's sort of horses for courses there. You'll make up your own mind of whether you really like it or not. I enjoyed it, but the odd time I felt like I was kind of out of the loop or falling away from the combat and had to work to get back into the mix. But that's just me. Now, it's not all rainbows and lollipops. There are a few issues, as I alluded to right at the start of my video, and it's more focused around the open world and how it's been implemented. In particular, the map of New York is hidden in static, and you've got to go around and unlock areas of the map by finding scanning towers. You hit the scanning tower and then you get the big swinging camera right around Spider-Man, showing him where the hidden activities and collectibles are. Now, Assassin's Creed have been doing that for over a decade. Far Cry games do it. Every Ubisoft game does it, and I was kind of hoping that, being a high-level AAA PlayStation exclusive and the trends that a lot of those exclusives have been setting, that this game would find a smarter way of doing it. But unfortunately, it's a pretty well-trodden trope. It's a minor complaint. Hey, look, I'm not trying to make a big deal of it, but I'm just surprised that there wasn't more progress made in that sort of level of game design. Once you've opened the map up, there's collectibles, there's activities to do. You collect those tokens, and then those tokens are used for unlocking gadgets and unlocking new suits, which have cool skills and stuff attached. One of the side activities which really stands out is when your police scanner goes and there's an emergency right nearby as you're swinging your way to the next waypoint, and you divert to go and save the day. And it's very Spider-Man. It's straight out of the comic books. Help at a car crash, stop a bank robbery, that sort of stuff. The wee bit cookie cutter, after about 5 or 6 you'll start to see them repeat, but they're still good fun, and those tokens are used to, as I say, unlock more gear. XP is earned usually through the main campaign quests, and they are used to unlock skill trees. Nothing overly surprising there. Any gamer will be familiar with how the skill trees work. Essentially, to bring this kind of full circle, what I would say is this is a Spider-Man game that has been laid across the Arkham City model, if you like. So think of it, Arkham City, Batman Arkham City, but with a Spider-Man skin. It's not dark and oppressive like Batman. It's light and airy and funny and fast, but it's still that same model. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're going to crib from someone, you may as well crib from the best, and Batman Arkham City is arguably still one of the best superhero games made. What I would say is I probably expected Sony to really blaze their own trail with this, and they haven't, but that's maybe unrealistic. I don't know. The complexities of making a superhero game in an open world, I think you're always going to have to fall back to the same position or same design points. The one thing I would say though is this Spider-Man game has a lot of heart. They have nailed Peter Parker, his internal conflict of wanting to be a superhero but wanting to be a good man and a good family member. And later on in the story, in the third act, gamers will be blown away because the depth of character and the depth of emotion there is really good. And for a person like me who's very story driven, I found it quite moving. It was a great piece of game design and game writing. Alright, so to kind of bring it into a full circle, Spider-Man is a tad derivative in places. It's not revolutionary, but it is beautiful and really well made and detailed, and more importantly, just extremely fun. So that's kind of what I think, and I hope you've enjoyed the review. Please consider subscribing. Give us a like if you've dug what we've done, and maybe you swing past Koru-Cottage.com and check out the rest of our stuff. Alright, thanks very much.